What up, Hyperchange? We are live right outside. I'm gonna just pan this so you can see that we are right outside the Tesla Design Studio. Here with the famous Tesla Daily host Rob Maurer. We're here to give our 2 cent Cybertruck recap. Pretty exhausted. We both did the test drive, went to the event. First impressions, looks insanely dope in person. Grew on me more and more. Tesla went 0 to 1. This is like the boldest car I've ever seen recently, probably, and that I can even think of. Like, literally looks like you could take it out of like a SpaceX rendering of Mars, and I think that's kind of the point. Biggest highlight of the night or event was Elon boofing the the glass test. I don't know if you saw that. I don't know what it looked like on the live stream.
I think it looked probably as bad, I would imagine.
Right? And so, Rob, what do you think?
So we all felt super positive about that until the glass thing happened, and then that kind of, it changed the vibe from Elon, and it changed the vibe at the event, which was super unfortunate because I think the specs of the vehicle, they're phenomenal. I think the design of the vehicle is interesting, but I think it's going to grow on people, and it's definitely grown on us throughout the night. Like, every time you see it drive by on these test rides, you kind of like stop and you stare at it. Like, it's very attention grabbing.
Yeah.
And every time you see it, it becomes more and more appealing. I think there's one angle that we don't particularly like it from, which is like dead on from the back, because it has like a huge truck bed and it's just very square, and you just only have the straight line horizontal taillight. And I just think that angle makes it look not that attractive as a vehicle. But pretty much every other angle, to me, it was appealing, which is, I think, a very good thing. I think we were talking it's going to be a very polarizing vehicle.
Very polarizing.
But that's not a bad thing, because if you have a polarizing vehicle, you have a lot of people that really love it, and that's all Tesla needs. Like, the other end of the pole doesn't necessarily matter as long as you have that positive end that's going to pick up the vehicle. So I think a lot that we need to like dive into and dissect, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. It's taken us some time to get there, but I think a good event, aside from the unfortunate window thing, which really was a bummer.
Honestly, still processing, because it was a very different event than the last Tesla event, where they had so much build-up. Here, there was zero build-up. It was right to the show. They also had the
which
ATV.
Is so unusual, because like there was so much build-up before the event, with like so much like happening outside of the actual venue.
There's like all these weird Cybertruck cars. I'll make a normal video to show you everything, but they definitely went all out for this event. And I like what you're saying, like the wind just got taken out of the presentation, and I almost feel like they cut it short after the glass thing, which is a real bummer.
It definitely killed Elon's mood, which is so disappointing, because he was definitely feeling it, and it was exciting. And then
the crowd was so pumped, and then we're like, wait, was that supposed to happen? Or like, there was a moment where it's like, wait, what? It broke it.
And,
like,
it happened
and the whole presentation,
time.
He's right behind the broken glass. So,
it's disappointing. Like, I feel bad for them that happened, because obviously the final product is going to be, the glass is going to be great. It's just an unfortunate situation that happened during the unveiling, but it happens. They'll move on. Like, it's going to be a great vehicle. The price point is insane. Like, none of us were expecting that. $39,900 is insane. Like, Elon said on the Ride the Lightning podcast that it'd be, they were targeting under 49,000. So I don't think any of us, I think we thought that'd be the benchmark.
And it was like Elon 49,000. So it'd be like the base is like 51 is what I thought. And then when I saw the car, it looks like it's a beast.
Huge car.
And the biggest innovation, I think, was that exoskeleton, which was before the glass. So that's a really interesting new type of steel that they're the same as the Starship. And it's like, if you recall the Model Y, I think it was for the Model Y, that patent where there's like a huge stamping machine, and they want to stamp all the metal at once. This is what it kind of seems like. Like, it weirdly reminds me of like a cockroach or like a bug, not in like a design way, but of the like exoskeleton way. Like, they rethought the design, and they were explaining that a little bit about how it's a totally different design than other trucks, and that sort of gave them a ton of different ways to work with it. And then when you see it, like, it's so big and impressive that when they said the price was $39,000, I was like, there's no way. This is out of control. And then
the total cost of ownership is going to be insane on that, because like on a normal Tesla, like a sedan type of Tesla, it's already great, but the efficiency gains just compound when you have like a larger form vehicle like that, with either the semi or the pickup truck, for example. So the total cost of ownership is going to be awesome, and any sort of like business customer is going to be able to reap those rewards, and they don't necessarily care that much what the vehicle looks like. Plus, it has all of the utility of, having onboard power for all of your tools and things like that.
Yeah.
So we're going to do some analysis on that sort of stuff. But like the utility of it, the price point of it, the total cost of ownership of it, it's just a very compelling vehicle, we think.
Yeah.
I think.
And it's interesting to think about Rivian, what they're doing in the electric space, which is, I feel like, sort of like an electric kind of high-end, just what pickups normally are. And then Tesla
More of
was
like a luxury type.
Yeah, but it's
More
weird
of a-
because the Tesla was so much more bold and radical. It
Yep.
almost feels just as luxury on the inside. Like the mirror is
So the
actually
inside
a
was
screen.
great. The inside was great.
The inside was next level. And I got a bunch of videos like on my Snap Spectacles. Mike, what up? Hyperchange. Thank you for the super chat. But yeah, the inside was really cool, and the center console was like the biggest center console I've ever seen. Like it was like,
Because it's actually a seat, so that folds up into a sixth seat.
wow. And they did have like 6 people come out of the car
Yep.
on stage.
Yep.
So the
So it's
seating was
basically
interesting.
like the center console is wide, maybe like a person size, and it folds up into being an actual seat. So then the interior seats 6, 3 in the front and 3 in the second row. And the second row is roomy. It's like literally as roomy as an SUV. Probably has more room in it than the Model Y did. I didn't sit in the back for either. I was up front for both, but I have some pictures of like we had 3, relatively broad-shouldered guys across in the back, and they all had plenty of room. It was like a lot of room back there, and definitely plenty of leg room for 6 foot tall plus people. So yeah, the interior was awesome.
The interior was
also
awesome.
The screen was 17 inches instead of 15 inches like in the Model
Ooh,
3.
I didn't catch that.
And they also had a different interface on there, which we got some video of, so we'll put that up as well. So
Yeah,
a couple
the
different
UI
things.
was very
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
And in general, the truck, I think what struck me, like I was rattled for a little. I was like, wait, I don't like it. Wait, now I do like it. When I see it in person, every time I saw it, I liked it more. And it's a radical departure from Tesla's normal design, which is this sort of sleek curvature and very aerodynamic and sort of like, I don't know how to describe that, but
This is so much more angular than their
yeah,
normal design.
very harsh angles
Yep.
everywhere. And so I think that's a little bit of the like adjustment. You're like, okay, it is a Tesla. And you see on the event, it's like that Cybertruck kind of like weird graffiti font. Every part of the design language of this is a departure from Tesla's norm. And so, and I think that goes to what you were saying. Like, people are love this or hate it. That's the reaction we're talking to. In line, a bunch of people are ordering it, and they're like, "Oh my god, I
Yep.
love it! I'm obsessed." Half my friends are texting me saying I ordered one. The other half are texting me saying I hate it. This is ugly. It's not going to sell. So I think when you have a product that instills harsh or like strong emotions either way, that's a sign that you have created something great. Because who cares if 500 million people think it's okay and don't buy it, or 500 million people hate it and don't buy it? Either way, they didn't buy it. And so I think that like passion and connection, and when you see this thing on the road, I mean, seeing it in
It's
person,
gonna be insane,
I think we saw it like because we're waiting in line for the test drive. We saw it pull up 10 times or 50 times probably, and every single time you see it pull up, you're like, it's like whoa, like
It's very attention grabbing.
very striking. Like
And that's without any other cars nearby. If you see this thing like going down, the parking lot at like Nordstrom Rack, for example, like it's just gonna be like, what the hell is this thing that's happening right here?
Dude.
It's so different than any other vehicle out there. Like even like a Model X was, I feel like, a very significant departure from like the vehicle design that we had seen up to that point. This is like an entirely next step. It's gonna be a head turner for sure.
that's where I got to give them the huge props, is on just the radical boldness of this.
Yep.
And it's just going to be fascinating to see how the hell this sort of unfolds, if people like it. The rims were actually probably my favorite part. Were sort of these like puffed out kind of boxy rims. Oh, we got a super chat from Australia. Ordered it in
Ordered.
Australia. Yo,
The
shout
Outback
out.
is gonna love this
Shout
truck,
out.
man.
Yeah, the Outback, dude, it's so, and I like how they were stressing how much more like this is tougher than any truck that is out there, and they're really trying to appeal to that. That's what we've been talking about. EV buyers are way different than truck buyers. How are they going to cross over that segment? I think that's actually one of these. I think it was like a Tesla employee in there was telling me the way to think about the demand for this is like when the Hummer came out, it was just a new category. It was a new vehicle, and it kind of became a cult, like very polarizing, like strong emotion vehicle. And so I think the Tesla Cybertruck is that they've kind of gone 0 to 1 here, created a new category. It's not the typical pickup buyers.
Yeah, it's new. It's interesting. They took a risk, and now we're lucky enough to see if that risk pays off.
And then
And that's the fun thing about following Tesla. Like, they do stuff like this. They push the envelope. Like, this isn't just an iteration. This is a revolution, or an revolution.
It is a
to what
revolution.
we've seen before.
Yeah.
Like, we've never seen a vehicle like this, and
Yeah.
that's exciting.
honestly, that's where I have to give them real props, because I think to do something like this is just gutsy.
Yeah.
It's real gutsy. Another thing I found is they were talking about the self-driving chip. I don't know if this is true, but they said it was going to come with the next self-driving chip, not the current self-driving chip.
Oh, okay, I didn't catch that.
And then there was a lot of different interesting stuff with the specs, sort of like nerding out on the specs. It was like 250 mile, 300 mile, then 500 mile. And this car's coming out in like 2022. So I was thinking 250 mile for a 2022 EV from Tesla seems a little weak, but then you have the cheap price point, and then they want to roll out the cheaper model before the more expensive model, which is a tri-motor. And if you remember, the tri-motor, I think, is the only, Tesla doesn't have a tri-motor design currently. The only tri-motor is the Plaid Model S and X. So that would indicate that like the premium pickup, the 60 grand 500 plus one, is using that new battery architecture that is in the Plaid mode truck, and the other two are using a different or the same kind of standard architecture that is
Current
in the cars today.
next
Yeah, current gen
yeah.
and next gen. So that to me is really weird. So it's like we have the pickup, but some of the lineup is old gen, some of the lineup is new gen tech. I was a little bit confused with how that was playing out.
Right. It's interesting because if you go on the website and you try to configure, it says like those first two lower end configurations are production late 2021, and then the tri-motor, the top of the line, is production late 2022. So it's a full year gap there between the configurations.
A full year gap.
A full year gap. And usually Tesla starts with the more premium versions because obviously that's where the higher margin is. You can absorb sort of that depreciation and amortization that exists at the beginning of a ramp up. So it's unusual to see Tesla kind of divert from that strategy that they've followed pretty much throughout their entire history, which definitely merits some consideration alongside what Gowie was saying with sort of the big discrepancies in the range of like you have 250, you have 300, and then all of a sudden you're at 500. It's just very interesting. Like it hints strongly at the fact that there's significant technological updates in between those two periods of time with sort of those first two vehicles and then the tri-motor top of the line configuration.
Yeah, and it's curious. It's like, why didn't you just wait till there were all the new batteries? But I mean, when I was thinking like the specs of the 60 grand truck, which is the max 500 mile run, I mean, this is, I think, an unbelievable deal. I mean, I think that's way cheaper than even like the base Rivian. I mean, when we're talking about electric trucks, the specs of this and the price are going to be out of control. Like when
insane.
Ford unveils their F-150, guaranteed Ford's mock F-150 team is just like, oh man, we're totally done. Because we just can't beat we can't even get close to these specs for this price. So I think the price was probably the biggest, like, great surprise. The look, the ATV. What the hell was that?
Dude,
the one more thing,
anything.
I got.
We've been asking everyone. We don't know anything.
Nobody knows anything. The Tesla people were like, we didn't know what this was.
Yeah.
We don't know what the hell's
Literally,
going on.
they said they saw it 2 hours
It
ago.
looks like Batman's ATV. I got a ton of dope B-roll of it, so I'll clip that together. But it's like, so there was one more thing.
There
It was
was.
no.
It's
I
kinda
did not see
little,
any
but-
of you people. No subscriber called this. Out of all the comments we've gotten or in emails, I think not a single person tweeted or put this out on the internet. So.
That's a
Yeah,
I mean that's a big
it's like a
departure
head
for
scratcher.
Tesla.
Yeah,
Like,
they never do that kind of stuff.
yeah.
And the way it
It's
drove
interesting.
up into the back was dope.
That was cool. That's
And-
probably why they did it, is to like demonstrate that.
And to be honest, I feel like Elon could have described so much more about the timing of the truck. Do you get the ATV when you buy the truck? And I genuinely think he, after the glass moment, like
He was
kind
out
of
of it.
cut it short.
There was
and
a
out of it.
very distinct change, which was super unfortunate.
Super unfortunate. And so, Elon, if you're watching, it's all good. We forgive you. Next time, maybe practice it
Gowie
ahead
still
of
likes
time.
the truck.
I don't know.
I think that might have been the issue because they said they threw like so much stuff at it. I wonder if that like weakened
It
the
weakened
structure
it.
of it
Yeah.
a little bit. I don't know. Because I'm sure they tried it. Like they have to have tried that before.
Yeah, but I mean, when you talk about the structure of the truck from the manufacturing perspective, I think
Yes.
that's the unlock of why they can make
Yes.
it so cheap,
Yes.
is because they've cracked the code on how to manufacture this exoskeleton at once. And so, you think about Tesla's innovation in terms of manufacturing. This is really them showcasing, like, here's what we can do. Not only is it the frame, but the alloy of the frame seems to be something very special there, which is probably makes it cheap, extremely strong, and
And this is a
Yeah.
learning that they're carrying over from SpaceX too. Like they talked about that on the Starship presentation, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, or whatever it was. Like the benefits of the steel, that specific type of steel that they're using, especially from the cost benefit perspective. And then obviously from a strength perspective, like we saw Franz, go up there and take a sledgehammer to it and nothing happened. So like that part of the demo was very successful and exciting for sure. But yeah, the production efficiency, like that's definitely a huge part of why the price point is able to be what it's going to be. The other thing that I think is super interesting as we kind of talk about that, 500 plus mile range, 60, 70,000 version, it's interesting to think about the carry-on effects that that's going to have to the rest of the lineup, because if this gigantic truck can get 500 plus miles. Like, what does that for 70K? You know, what does that do for Model
Wow.
S? What does that do for Model X? What does that do for like a Model Y?
Wow. If anything, this just makes you scratch your head even more about like what the hell are they going to announce at Battery and Powertrain Investor Day? Like
Yeah,
it
and
felt
it
like
just
they
makes
just
you more
dropped a
exciting for
bunch
the
more
future.
clues about it, and honestly, the other angle I thought was so interesting about this truck is Elon was talking about how it's going to go on Mars. This is really the first like SpaceX with the materials of Starship, and the way they're like saying it could go on Mars, and it literally looks like it could go on Mars. Like we have this weird sort of, it felt like a kind of step together for Tesla and SpaceX with this product
It did.
that I hadn't felt in other Tesla products. And as much as we, people think you're crazy if you're like, oh, well, they're going to sell Teslas on Mars and like, all that kind of stuff. And Tesla and SpaceX have so much overlap. Well, we're really starting to see that kind of come to fruition now. And the materials sounds like a huge advantage. And I think a lot of that materials innovation came over from SpaceX, which is literally right there. So, I don't know. That's kind of the wrap up of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's a good
wrap
summary.
up. You guys have like 10 seconds to send in a really epic question that we'll answer. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I mean, Tesla, as much as we're scratching our heads about like, is this great? Is it dope? Is it polarizing? Is it going to change the company? I just think you got to give Tesla credit for trying and being bold and pushing like this, because there's not a company coming close to this level of innovation from the material, technology, design, every aspect of this truck started from scratch. We need more companies doing that. And I think that's my big takeaway.
Yeah, completely agree.
All right. Well,
Excited.
thanks for being on the live stream, Rob.
And if you guys haven't, check out my podcast, Tesla Daily. Just Google Tesla Daily, it'll come up. And I am on Twitter at Tesla Podcast. Also check that out.
Yes, Tesla Podcast, my favorite Tesla investor podcast. So you guys all got to subscribe if you haven't already. All right. See you guys next time. Model S and X refresh could happen with this new tech that Rob was saying. Anyway, I don't want to get caught up in that. See you guys next
That's
time.
another
Thank you
conversation.
so much for tuning
Thanks,
in.
guys.
Peace.